Alrighty, hello everybody, photo friends. Man, back in the saddle with Phil and Sam. It's been a little while, but I'm super excited to be here with Sam, especially. Sam popped on. He's a surprise guest. He wanted to be here just to hang out and have some fun. So while we get everything set up, we're just gonna chat. For anyone watching, say what's up. Tell us if you're watching, where you're watching from, so we can just say hi, give a shout out. And if you want to follow along with the editing, go ahead and there's a comment. I commented the link to the Google Drive folder that has the photos. Sam, go ahead and check if that's on there. That's on the post. And anyone else watching, let us know if you see that, just so that we know that it's working and all that kind of good stuff. Sam, how's it going?
It's going well, man. It's going real well. Just here with my family. Hanging out in Pasadena. Just got back from my road trip, and it's been a wild couple of weeks. Was planning on being on the road a bit longer, but ended up coming back a little sooner. So really quick, I went into here we go. Never mind. I clicked I clicked on the form to submit my photos opposed to the drive. There we go.
So the photographyandfriends.com/live editing. That's the that's the link for everyone. Go ahead and download the photos. If you're watching this in the future, maybe skip ahead until you see like the Lightroom app. That's when we're going to actually start editing. But we just want to let everyone download the photos. There's 3 of them. They're raw photos. So you don't have to edit in Lightroom. But hopefully your editing application will allow you to edit raw photos. And for people who are here, I see a lot of people popping in. So thank you for being here live with us. This is our first one of these, so bear with us as we kind of, smooth out the kinks. But we've already chosen the photos we're going to edit, and so in the future you can submit your photos, but there's no need to submit photos to the comments or anything right now because we already have the photos that are selected to be editing.
I'm gonna have to submit some of my photos from this trip I just went on. I'd love it's
dude. Yeah, I've seen your Instagram. It looks awesome.
Yeah, there's so many photos, but how you approach editing these really sunrise, sunset, high contrast images is there's a lot of different ways to approach it, and it's always cool seeing how different people approach these edits.
Yeah, totally. You should submit some. I would love to edit to some of your photos. Shout outs to everyone here so far. Anthony Uniza from Brea, California. Brea, that's like so close to me, man. 15, we could meet up at Brea Mall. Lazy Dog Cafe. Claudia from Chicago. Jan. Erica. Japneet. Jose from Santa Cruz, dude. Sam, we got our people here.
Yes.
Padarthi, Rupesh, Peter, Marlena, thank you so much for being here live with us. And we are going to get started in just a minute. Delane, man, so many cool people here. So happy that people are here live. I did promise prizes, so we're going to be giving out prizes. 2 rounds of prizes, one after the first edit and one after the second edit. So people do have to stick around for prizes. And I'm not even going to tell people what the prizes are. But I think they're pretty cool prizes. So, okay, expectations, lower your expectations because they're not that epic. Think like $10 to $20 range prizes. You're here for the experience to learn editing, though, not for the prizes. So I think the way we're going to do this is I'm going to go ahead and show my screen. And maybe Sam, you might be able to share your screen later on, and we can see what your edit is, or you could, because if you share your screen through Skype, I might be able to see it. We'll figure it out. But
start with your edit.
Yeah, we're gonna be on my screen. Let's get over there. Let's switch to my screen. You'll still be able to see me and Sam, right? Let me know if you could see me and Sam. Let me know if you could hear us. Let us know if it sounds good. Got 55 people here right now. Woo, that's awesome. I guess this is
people from Portland, Haiti, Pakistan, from all around the globe as always.
Sam, yeah, you'll just be the MC for tonight. But yeah, you'll see me, and I'm gonna just start with these 3 photos, and each one should, I don't know, I haven't looked at these photos really. I haven't edited them yet, and so we are doing this all from scratch. So yeah, I think let's just get into it. And Sam is going to be editing on his end, and we'll compare ours. And then after we're all done editing the photos, I want us to post them into the chat and see how everyone edited the photos. And also, I'm hoping this can be a little bit interactive, and if you're watching my screen, you can kind of give me feedback or say, oh, boost the saturation, or give me suggestions, and I'll try to implement those as well. And I'm trying to pay attention to all the comments and stuff. But Sam, if you see comments, just throw them at me if there's important ones.
I'll let you know. So far, we just have a green light that people can see Lightroom, they can hear us, and that they're tuning in from around the globe as always.
Cool. All right, cool. Well, we're going to start with these photos, and let's just give a shout out to the students who submitted these. Yogesh Kolti. This is a photo from Lake Tahoe, so not too far from us in the grand scheme of things. The next photo is going to be from Michael VG, and the last one is from Jury Hendricks. So these were submitted in the past month or so, and again, for people watching live, you can submit your own photos to be edited or chosen. There's a link in the comments, or if you just click on the announcements in the group, there's a pinned post up there. All right, so let's get into editing. Photo number 1. So this Lake Tahoe looks like a beautiful scene. All these photos that I kind of randomly chose ended up looking super underexposed, right? It's super dark, but that's the beauty of a raw photo, because I'm just going to take the exposure slider and slide it up. Ooh, why is my exposure not working right now? Oh, I'm going to refresh Lightroom, because I was trying to use a little console device and it wasn't working. So I unplugged it, and I think it reset some of the settings. Oh, Lightroom shutting down. Okay. Sorry, everyone. Technical difficulties. We are loading up. But I have a new iMac. I don't think I told Sam yet. I got a new iMac.
What?
Yeah.
iMac Pro?
Say that again.
Console device, and it wasn't.
Is that me?
Checking audio. Did you get an iMac Pro?
No. Apple launched a new iMac this year. It's kind of like they're going to come out with like a brand new version of the iMac, their own chip and whole new design in the next year or two. But they came out with a new version this year. It's the same. It looks the exact same as my old one, but the inside is like almost good, if not better than the iMac Pro. And the price was like really good for what it is. I almost was going to go full force and get the Mac Pro, but I just realized I don't really need it. Someday maybe, but yeah. So this one, let me just make sure. Okay, yeah, this is all working now. But yeah, it's $4,000. So compared to like the Mac Pro, which basically starts at that, this was like the maxed out version. And it's got like 128 gigabytes of memory, and yeah, so it's super fast from what I can tell right now.
Handles the raw file as well.
Yeah. All right, so back to the start of editing. as I was saying, raw photos are amazing because I can just boost the exposure all the way and you can see that there's all this information in the shadows. So I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to end up, but I usually start in these sliders down here. Most editing applications have options to edit these things individually: shadows, whites, blacks, highlights. You can also see the histogram up here moving. So for brand new editors, over on the right-hand side, you've got your whites, highlights, your kind of mid-range, and then shadows and blacks. And so as I move these sliders, you can see these little hills moving to the right or left. And so there's no real rule of like exactly what your histogram should look like, but it is a good thing to kind of look at to see, okay, well, there's a lot of highlights. That's because we have a bunch of bright spots in the sky, and then a lot of really dark stuff. And I don't think I'm a huge fan of everything being silhouetted right here personally. So I'm going to boost these shadows quite a bit, so we have a little bit of that information. But I also want to bring back the sky a little bit. And I think I should probably like do a timer, because sometimes I edit photos and it can just take like a long time. So I think I'm going to at least give myself like 10 minutes. And I think it might even be quicker than that. So I'm bringing down the whites, and then the blacks. Let's see. Sometimes if you want a more stylized look, like that more flat looking photo, which is a pretty popular style right now, you just bring up the flats a lot or the blacks a lot, and it creates that sort of flat look. But I kind of like having a little bit more contrast still. So I'm actually going to bring my blacks down. So you can see kind of I'm balancing things. I'm bringing up the exposure with the shadows, but then everything else I kind of brought down. And I might even bring up the overall exposure just a little bit, but then bring back down the blacks to bring back that contrast. So the contrast is like the contrast of the darks to the highlights. So a more dark and a picture with like lots of darks and lots of highlights is very contrasty. Whereas if you had an image with like a histogram where everything's in the middle, that's going to be a pretty flat, non-contrasty image. All right, how's everyone doing? Everyone doing good? People following along? Are you guys editing while we are doing this? Or are you just kind of here for the show? Cool. So that's like where I'm going to start, and I'm going to leave the sort of exposure right there. For landscape photos, I do use these presence sliders to kind of give a little bit more detail. So things like clarity, if I boost that, if you go all the way, it creates this sort of HDR effect, which I don't really want, but just a little bit. And then the texture as well is just going to bring out that detail in those trees and stuff. This image is very sharp. It's got a lot of detail already, as you can see, but bringing up that texture, if I go crazy, I don't know if you can really tell through the stream, but you can see how it brings that texture to it. It brings out that texture. Now, dehaze is something I might add a little bit of. I'm just going to bring up the slider all the way just to kind of see what it would do. And no, I'm not going to. If I have like a cloudy sky, I might use that, but for this photo, I'm not going to use it. Sam, how are you doing? Are you like way ahead of me? Are you editing Lightroom?
It's great because I've hidden your screen, and so I'm just editing my photo and hearing the things that you're focusing on as I go along. Like, yeah, interesting. Okay. But I'm not looking at yours purposefully to sort of
good.
Not get too.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I just peeked and realized we have very different looking photos right now.
All right. People are saying they're just watching here for the show. If people have suggestions or say like, hey, have questions about what I'm doing, you can comment too. That's what this is. That's why we're here live. And I don't know, I'm really enjoying this so far. We're 15 minutes in. Things are going pretty smoothly. So I'll keep going. So lastly, we've got these two sliders for color. So saturation is going to bring up the colors for everything. You can see that there. Bring it down if you want. Vibrance is going to do it more specific to greens and blues and not so much of the oranges and reds. If you take my classes on editing, you know that I recommend using the vibrance slider. Whoa, I just swallowed a friggin' fly.
Oh.
Almost, it went in my mouth. We're gonna have to get an instant replay for that one. Man. Okay, I think I spit it out, but I'm gonna take a sip of water, man. That was, we couldn't have planned that any better. I saw that fly like the past hour, and I tried to kill it multiple times. Oh my god. Okay.
Wait until you went live.
Live show. We just the show must go on though, right? Okay. That's gotta be like one of the best bloopers that has happened live to me. Okay. Anyway, where was I? So with Vibrance, I typically use the Vibrance slider more for portraits where I don't want to bring up the colors and people's skin tones. But for landscape photos, I will bring up the overall saturation a bit, unless I'm going for that desaturated look. But I think for this photo, I want to bring it all up just a little bit. And then I'm going to focus on some of the specific colors down in the HSL panel down here. I'm going to skip this tone curve for now. Again, if you follow my tutorials, you know I kind of save that for last just to make some minor adjustments to the contrast and exposure at the end of the edit. But here in the HSL panel, I can take the saturation and I can either go by the sliders here and say, oh, I want to bring up the greens, maybe bring up the blues, and I'm just double clicking that to reset it to 0. Or I can take this color picker button right here, click it, go into my photo and say, okay, I like this orange right here and I want to bring that up just a little bit. And you can see as I click and slide up, these two sliders go with it. And so I can kind of just click around and say, okay, I want some blues to be a little bit more saturated, and then maybe some green down here or whatever the specific color of the trees is, which includes some yellow. I can turn this on and off and you can kind of see what that does. So that's giving like I increase the saturation for a lot of colors. So I might say I'm going to bring back down some of that yellow and orange. Maybe I'll bring out some of that color in the sunset later on with a specific brush. But for overall, I'm really focusing on the green of the trees. I just want to make that pop a little bit more. Split toning is another tool that I might use at the end. This allows me to add sort of a color, hue, or tone to the specific parts of the image, the highlights versus the shadows. So if I bring up the saturation, you can see as I go through the hue slider for highlights, it changes the color of the highlights, which is mostly in the sky, right? So if I want the sky to be kind of really blue, I can move the hue over to like this blue area, and then I can adjust the saturation for how strong it is. And then maybe for the shadows, I want it to be green. So first I bring up the saturation so I can just see what it is doing. And then let's go to green. Now this looks like a wild alien landscape, so I'm not gonna leave it there. But if I bring down the saturation, or maybe move this a little bit more to the yellows, something like that could work. It's a little stylized for me, and that is kind of something that I use the hue or the split toning for, is more of like a style. You can tell this is more of like a filter that you might see on Instagram or something like that. I'm actually going to turn these off right now, turn down that saturation, and maybe I'll play with that at the end. Mary Wood, Pence's fly. Man, yeah, flies are getting a lot of press right now, so I hope that wasn't Pence's fly, but we'll see. All right, everyone seems to be having a good time. Colleen learned something new about a button. That's great. Hopefully people are learning new stuff. All right, so we're getting along here in time. So I'm going to just jump to a couple cool graduated filters. So these buttons up here, if I take this graduated filter, this is going to allow me to edit just the top half or the bottom half of an image. So if I click, or the side to side. So if I click and drag, you can see that it's affecting the top half. And that's because I had this exposure slider up all the way from a previous edit. If I press O on my keyboard or just click this show selected mask overlay button, I can see this highlighted red, and that kind of shows me where I am actually affecting this image, okay? To fine tune this even more, I'm going to go to range mask and turn on luminance because I just want to select the sky. I don't want to affect the earth, the hills down here. And so if I choose luminance, I can actually take this range and say, I just want the highlights. So this slider goes from 0 to 100, and then it has these like endpoints. And if I take this first one and drag it up, you can see that it stops selecting some of those shadow areas, right? I can play with the smoothness if I want it to be like a sharper transition, basically. So something like that's pretty good, and it's selecting mostly the sky. You can also fine tune this with like brushes, but I'm not going to do that right now, maybe for a future edit. So now if I press O, I can remove the overlay so I can actually see what I'm doing. So say I want to make this a more pronounced sunset. Maybe I want to drop or actually increase the temperature of the sky, make it even warmer. Maybe I want to make the blue pop a little bit more, and so I can make the sky even bluer, okay? Just depends on what you want to do. And I'm excited to see what people come up with. But just for fun, I'm just going to make this more of like a sunrise, just epic sky. Here's where I might do a little bit of dehaze just to bring out a little bit more detail in that sky. There's no clouds or anything. And actually, now that I say that, I'm going to remove that. If there were clouds and it was like a little hazy, that would bring out some detail in the sky. But I don't want to try to pull out details of nothing. So I'm going to remove that dehaze. You might just bring up the overall saturation as well. That's going to bring out more color. Maybe bringing down the exposure as well. Or maybe just the highlights. So this is looking a little extreme. So I'm just going to back off some of these sliders. And again, you can turn this off. If we go down to scroll down below, we're in this mask or this, graduated mask filter. If I could turn this on and off, you can see what that's doing. Okay. So I could also go to color. And if I want to add more, say, red, I can kind of pick and choose the color. And usually what I do is I just go up at the top and I kind of click and drag through just to see if there's a specific color I like. And then what I'll do is say, okay, I like this orange, but it's too orange, right? Then I'll just bring down the slider here. So it's specifically that hue 32, but I'm bringing down the saturation just to make it a little softer. All right, so that's pretty good. Next, I want to really play with this water right here to make that kind of pop. So I'm going to take this adjustment brush. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. Press O to make sure we're seeing what we're selecting. And we have auto mask on down here. So it's going to do a decent job trying to select based off of kind of the first thing that I click. And you can see kind of how I go around the edge of like the land right here, that it's not picking up so much of the trees. Oh, there you can see that it is picking up. So it's not perfect. But we can also do some fine tuning just like we did last time with a range mask. So I'm just going to go over here, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know if I want to go into the water over there. Okay, we'll leave it like that. This, again, if I was editing this myself, it would take a lot longer, but I'm quickly going to let's just do a color range mask so I can show you what this looks like. If I take this eyedropper and then just click in the water, see how it starts to clean that up quite a bit, and then I can kind of increase or decrease the amount. You can also click and drag an area so it selects multiple colors, and that picks up even more of the water. I want to erase a little bit up here, so I'm going to click this erase button. Now tell me if I'm going way too fast. I feel like I'm going really fast, especially if you're brand new to Lightroom. I see a couple comments. Mo wishing you could see a similar workflow in Affinity Photo. Definitely something that I think would be helpful. I don't personally use Affinity. I believe most of this stuff would be able to be done in Affinity Photo. But I definitely need to check out Affinity myself. I have a co-instructor, Jeremy Hazel, who taught an Affinity Photo course if you're interested. But yeah, so anyways, back to this edit. You can see that now I have just the water selected. I want to make this water look blue, like more blue. Right now the exposure is already up, and that's again because when you have settings from your previous edit, it kind of brings in those settings. So I'm just double clicking this exposure to reset it. So how do we make this more blue? Drop the temperatures, one option, bring up the saturation, or play with the color, just like we did with the previous filter of the sky. So bringing the temp just a little bit. You can easily see like photos that look way over edited when it looks something like this. And people like do that often, but I feel like it's always better to be a little bit softer and not as aggressive with your edits. Here's where I might do the dehaze just to see, because you can actually see it looks like, I don't know if that's movement in the water or reflection of some sort of clouds. I don't think it's reflection of clouds because they would be over here, I think. I don't know. But there is some detail in the water that bringing up the dehaze helps bring out. But then you can notice that bringing up dehaze actually decreases the exposure of the water. So to kind of counterbalance that, I'm going to bring up the exposure. Then I might just go into this color as well and see if there's like a blue that I like. So if you want something like a little more turquoisey or something to make it a little bit more majestic, something like that might work. So this is definitely like more of a stylized edit, but again, I'm going to bring down my saturation so it's not as crazy. So to see the overall changes from the beginning to the end, or just like the before and after, you can press the / key. So you can see that we've made some dramatic changes. I can already tell there's some things that I'm not a huge fan of what I did. I think the sky, maybe not bringing down the highlights, might be a little dramatic to me, everything that I'm doing. But something that you can always do is, or what I can do is kind of come back here and say, okay, well, I think I added a little bit too much saturation with those graduated filters and stuff. So just in my overall edits, I'm going to bring back down my overall saturation so it looks a little bit more natural. One thing that I didn't do that I typically do at the beginning of an edit is just crop it so that I know what I'm working with. But the photo is a pretty good crop, but I am going to come in and just crop it a little bit. I typically try to use like a specific aspect ratio, and you can find those if you click aspect here. Say you want this to be a desktop backdrop for a 16:9 phone, which is like a pretty common dimension for phones. Something like this might be pretty good. I mean, the star of the show for this is like the lake, the sunset, and it's kind of symmetrical if you crop it something like this. And I'm just going to make sure the horizon's perfectly level, just rotate just a tiny bit. So there you can see kind of, looks like a pretty good edit or crop, I would say. You could even go a little wider for more of a panoramic. I think my time, I'm going way over time, so I'm going to end with one more thing. I kind of want to see what happens if I brighten up this island thing right here. Just because it's kind of like right in the center, it's super dark. Let's just select that and then bring up the overall exposure. You can see if I bring up the exposure too much, it just becomes like this flat, white, overexposed thing. There's not a ton of detail in here. Let's zoom in here so you can see. So I want to bring back down like the blacks, but it's really just making it more contrasty, but trying to bring back out some of the details. That might look a little unnatural, but I'm just gonna leave it. Something I didn't do earlier was just go into the detail tab down here and do a little bit of noise reduction, because there is some noise. The photo itself, if I go to library, let's see what the settings were. It was at ISO 100, so shot on a Sony. Still got some of that, some noise in there. So I'm gonna just increase the noise slider here just a little bit. And that's actually something, it kind of counterbalances the texture sliders and clarity that I did earlier. But something you can do to make it a little like dreamy is just drag up the luminance noise reduction slider, and it kind of creates this kind of washed out watercolor look. It's definitely more of a style. And then last thing I do is go to my tone curve and just see, do I want to add a little bit more contrast? To do that, you can just create like a little bit of an S curve. See how it's kind of starting to look like an S? That's what's going to add contrast. Maybe I want the mids to come up just a little bit, but maybe my highlights go back down because I don't want to lose those details in the sky. All right. Oh, that's a little bit too much, too extreme. And what you really want to do when you're editing a photo is go back and like walk away, take a look somewhere else, and then come back and see what it looks like with fresh eyes. But here you can see the before and after. Let's just do a couple comparisons. And then, Sam, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I've peeked over at what you're doing, and I'm so curious to see what everyone else comes up with, because this is sort of what I was talking about before, of like a high contrast, a lot of different ways to approach the colors. How much of the shadows do you bring out? How much of the highlights do you bring down? You have overlapping, like those trees overlapping. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to approach the shadows there, and yeah, that's man.
Yeah.
No process.
Mo had a question about my preferred method for selecting the water right around the trees. Mm-hmm. What I probably would have done is taken the brush, turned off the auto mask, just brushed over everything where the water is, and then probably done the luminance range mask, which allows me to select more of the highlights and not the trees. You know, if you want to be super fine-tuned about this, you might bring this into Photoshop and separate it out into layers and edit it that way. But in Lightroom, that's what I would do.
Yeah, I think I mean, if you were to get really detailed, personally, I really don't like that halo effect.
Yeah.
Which sort of get with the auto masking. And it really does take, going into Photoshop, fine-tunedly selecting everything. But I also, like, for me, naturally, the sun's in front of you, so you're not going to have a whole lot of luminance on those trees and whatnot. So I think it's natural for it to sort of be a bit darker.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so while we are, we're gonna move on to the next photo pretty soon. I'm gonna export this, and I guess I'll just leave my screen up so you can see. I don't know if it makes sense to export right now or just export all of them. If anyone is editing your photos, though, go ahead and export them and post them. I would love to see them while we're actually doing the live stream. But before we do our next photo, we're going to do a little giveaway. And I think because we got a great comment about wanting to learn Lightroom, we have 2 prizes, or 10 prizes two types of prizes, 10 total prizes. The first set is going to be a free access to our Lightroom course. So I was trying to think of a way that we can do this as kind of fun. And Sam, you're going to have to help me with the second prize, which is not going to be a course. It's a little tool that's going to help with people's photography. But for this first prize, I was thinking the first 5 people who can write in the comments which school Sam and I went to for film school. Although if one person comments it, then the rest of them will know. Whatever. Okay, first 5 people who type it in are going to get your prizes. So I'm going to pay attention to that right now and try to write those down. So
now, is it writing out the full name or just the acronym?
Acronym's fine. Okay. So if you've been in a lot of our classes, you probably forgot this, but we've said it before.
How fast can you?
So you'll get access to our Lightroom course, and if you have access to our Lightroom course already, we'll let you pick one of our other photography courses. Google is your friend. Yes, it was film school.
It was film school.
I don't know if we should say if someone has got it right.
Well,
if we say, okay, that was like a dumb idea for multiple people.
Right?
All right, whatever. Okay, Marge, you were right. No, Catherine, you were right. LMU. Marge, we're going to give it to you too. And whoever types in that answer fast enough, we got 3 more spots.
Well, technically, it wasn't Loyola.
Yeah, no, it's not Loyola University.
I'm really glad that people think we went to Parsons, though.
I don't even know what Parsons is.
It's a well-known art school.
Okay, John Flash. John Flash gets it. We get like 3 people answering. People are like, we don't want your class. All right, Bailey. Okay. We got it, everyone. Okay, so we got John. I'm going to give it to Marge, who said Loyola University. That's a pretty good guess. We got John. Catherine was the first person. Ashley Albright. And Bailey. Okay, so Sam, you need to think of a better way to do this for 5 people for the next prize, which is going to come up after this edit.
Oh, man. Okay.
That's your task right now. All right. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that. Okay, let's move on to... and if anyone has a better idea, just comment to us. Maybe that'll be better. We need a way to give away a prize to 5 people, and I don't even know if there's that many people watching, so I think repeat winners is fine. Okay, so we're going to move on to this portrait from Michael VG, and I really only want to be on here for another 20-ish minutes, so I'm going to go through this one super fast. Rapid
editing.
Yeah, rapid editing. The last one will be even faster, I think, because it's a pretty similar photo in terms of lighting. And so we'll play around, except it's a dog, so it's like completely going to be a different subject. But here we have this portrait, super dark, super underexposed. And so let's just see how much information we have in this raw photo. It's pretty crazy the amount of information you have, because I didn't even know where this portrait was taken. It's got this brick wall in the background, which I'm actually not even a huge fan of the background being a brick wall. I kind of like the drama that you have with the underexposed photo, but it's a little too underexposed for me. Like, in a photo, I want to be able to like see something in terms of the details of like the face. And so stoic facial expression. So I'm not going to try to make this like super overexposed image. I kind of want to match the exposure of the actual image and the contrast of the image to the facial expression. So I think I am just going to bring up the overall exposure quite a bit, though, because I'm going to play with the background, maybe using a vignette to darken that up later on. But the overall exposure, I'm just going to move up so we can see his face. I really want to bring out the details of his eyes a little bit more. The eyes are like what our eyes are typically attracted to in a photo. And so I'm probably going to use like an adjustment brush for that, but I'm going to bring up the shadows just a little bit. Blacks, I might bring back down just a tiny bit. You can kind of see what I'm, my typical editing of what I do. I bring up shadows, bring back down the highlights, and the whites I'll bring down as well. Oh, still super contrasty. I don't know. What do you guys think? Any suggestions? Oh, can you not see my screen?
People. Oh, yeah, you're on us.
Oh, sorry, everyone. Oh, my. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so the before, you can see kind of what I was doing. This is the total before image. This is where I am. I showed how much information there is in the photo with the background. So we started here, and I'm about right here in terms of where I like the contrast right now. So sharpness, details, lots of details. I'm going to jump right into the eyes. I might do a couple other things. Typically, actually, first I want to just crop, make sure the crop's good. Crop's pretty good. I am going to get just a little bit closer into the face. Putting those eyes on that second, third line up top. The one thing I don't like about this photo is I don't like how it was taken at an angle with the wall. The wall's like at an angle behind him. I think you either want to put him like straight on the wall or just make that angle even more dramatic. It's just like feels like it's off center to me right now. And that's part of the reason why I don't even want to see that background. And so I'm going to get rid of that in a sense with a vignette later on. The temperature itself is super warm. So one thought that pops into my mind first is like maybe making this black and white. I think for like these dramatic portrait lighting photos, these like harsh lighting photos, sometimes black and white can help. I don't know. What do you guys think? Black and white? Can you guys still not see what we're doing?
I can see what you're doing.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. Let me make just... People, can you see what I'm doing? We got 52 people still here. Thank you. Comment in the chat so we know that people are actually watching. Okay, people. Okay, what do you think? Black and white or color? I'm going to leave it up to the audience for this one. Black and white or color? I know there's probably a delay too from what I'm saying and then the comments that we see. So black and white. Okay, everyone's saying black and white. Okay, we're going to leave it black and white. We're actually going to jump right into the tone curve. I rarely do this, go straight into the tone curve, but I kind of want to just make that contrast even more. I kind of like having his eye just, you can see his eye just a little bit in the shadow, but everything else on that side of his face is underexposed. So you kind of have like half his face exposed, the rest not. I'm going to go into an adjustment brush. Try to get in here just to bring up the whites of his eyes just a little bit, just so we can see a little more detail. I'm going to turn off auto mask. I'll turn on auto mask. Make sure I press O to see our selected mask overlay. And just, that auto mask did not work. Painting in here. Okay. I think it's just because it's underexposed. You can't see it. So I'm going to erase the edge. A little bit. Okay. So now if I'm zooming out by pressing the Z key, by the way, Z to zoom in, press the space bar, click and drag to move around. So now let's press O so we can see what we're working with. And I'm just going to bring up the exposure of everything. And maybe more so bring up the shadows. So you can see that makes a pretty big difference already, being able to see his eyes like that. Now you don't want to go too far because sometimes it can start to look pretty unnatural. See the before, after. And maybe if I wanted to be super perfectionist about this, I would do one eye at a time, because I feel like his right eye is a little bit too overexposed now. So I'm going to bring back the overall exposure and then just bring back up the shadows. Ooh, not the blacks though. What do you think, guys and girls? Everything looking good? Yeah, it looks creepy in red. Yeah, we turn off that red. Another thing that I might do, usually I come into the pupils and I'll try to, excuse me, just bring out some detail, and especially color actually. And so since it's black and white, this isn't going to do much, and I'm not going to go too far with it, but just bring out the clarity. You can barely even see what I'm doing. Bring up the exposure just a little bit. Bring back down the blacks to have some contrast. All right, I kind of like how that's looking though. One thing I'm gonna do that I don't always do is just soften up his skin a little bit. There's like so much detail, you can see every pore, and I'm just gonna soften that up just a little bit. So I'm gonna take my brush, click new. There's already sort of a preset for this. It's called Soften Skin or Soften Skin Light. I'm gonna start with a Soften Skin Light. And I'm just gonna paint over his like his cheek area. And I'm gonna erase some of this that I've gone over a little bit too much. Are you editing this, Sam?
I am.
Okay, cool.
I'm debating between the black and white and color now, though.
Yeah.
It's always interesting going through and editing so much, and then I started editing in black and white, and then I started.
You went back.
I went back, and it's really interesting to see it in that. That color.
So you can see here what's actually doing the softening. It's decreasing this texture and clarity. So if I want to go a little bit more, I can take these sliders down even more. You can see that just continues to soften up even more. Now, I don't want to like make his skin smooth. That's not my goal. It's just softening it up just a little bit. I kind of want to add a little bit of highlights to his hair, which I think is looks really cool. So let's click a new brush. We're going to take our brush again, and I'm just going to reset these sliders. And I'm just going to go in and take my exposure and boost it. And I'm also going to go down to my brush flow and density. Take those down a little bit. You can think of this as like watering down the strength of the brush. Whereas like if you have it all the way up, it's like you're just full force painting on it. So this, you can kind of brush over it multiple times to add even more detail, or make the edits you're doing even stronger. Okay. So I'm just going over some of his hair. I think that looks pretty good. All right. I think that's looking pretty cool. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do is just play around with the background for now. I'm going to use a radial filter right here. So this is kind of an adjustment to anything inside or outside of the circle that I'm about to create. Okay. So I'm going to click and drag, and you can see the circle that I'm going to just put around his face. If I press O, you can see that it's selecting what's outside of his face. And down here in the settings, I can increase the feathering, or decrease it or invert it. So I'm editing what's inside the circle. So I don't really want to be editing or affecting his face. Oops. Okay, so we'll start there. And what I'm going to do is just bring down the overall exposure. Something I might do really quick to make this even more stylized. So you can see I'm just trying to get rid of like that background. I kind of want to just put his whole shirt and stuff in darkness and just have his face. So to do that, I'm going to do basically the same thing with the graduated mask that I did before for the sky for that previous portrait. And I'm just going to bring down the exposure all the way. Now, completely black like that, super stylized. I kind of want a little bit of detail in there still, just so you can, you can see a little bit in the background, but something like that I think looks pretty cool. I don't know, what do you guys think? I think it's pretty cool. Bailey says it looks like a Gatorade commercial. I think I'll take that as an epic compliment.
Pretty good compliment, yeah.
So I think I'm going to leave it there. We're at 8:50. I could totally spend more time on this. Just going to do a little noise reduction. No, that's not. I don't need any noise reduction for this. I feel like I want a little bit of more contrast with just the overall exposure. So I'm just going to take this, make it. See, this is super dramatic. So everything's kind of falling into black now, except for that side of his face. I would probably go in and boost the exposure of this eye just a little bit. Just, we're kind of losing it. I'd probably add another brush would be the best thing to do, but you know how I would do that by now. Okay, yeah, I think that looks pretty cool. Okay. Before and after. So I ended up with like a pretty similar exposure actually as the photo, even though we have so much information in this photo. I do kind of want to just see what it looks like if I bring up the saturation. Oh, yeah. Like Sam said, when I bring the saturation kind of back up, not even completely up, this is like at 33% or 25% saturation. I don't know. What do you guys think? Watching. I kind of like that actually compared to this or this. Here, let me get rid of that so you're not confused at what I'm asking. So this, a little saturation or black and white? I think black and white is like the initial reaction that people would go to, but I actually think like this is kind of cool. Sam, you give me your opinion. Watch my screen and see what I want to see what you think. Did you see what I was doing?
I'm waiting for it to catch up to us, but I'm.
Oh yeah, you're not. Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm a big fan. I ended up doing this exact same thing. I have just a hint of saturation, but then I went and played with some of the colors in there with the hue shifting.
Yeah.
But I really like that. Yeah, it just caught up to where you are. I really like that a lot.
Okay. It's
very dramatic. Very dramatic, and especially with that eye, his other eye popping up.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Cool. I'm excited about this one. Cool. Okay. This is we got people on both sides of black and white versus color. That's totally great. I love that people have their own opinions. I would love to see your guys' photos. So hopefully if you're not following along right now and can't share your photos, I hope you take this and practice, and we want to see what you do. But it is prize time again. And so, I don't know, did we figure out, someone posted something about like just picking a number between 1 and 50 or something, and the closest ones.
I was just going to do even odds, and the first 5 people to hit the right one would get it. Just flip the coin.
I say we do. I like the number. Like if we pick a number between 1 and 50, and then
how many comments do we go before we say stop?
I guess we have to. Oh yeah. How are we gonna do that?
So that's what I was thinking. If it's just 1 or 2, and then everyone says even or odd, then the first 5 that say the right one.
Okay, let's just do that. Even or odd. And the prize is this little, actually this company sent them to me, or sent one to me, and they're going to send them to you. So you're going to have to send me, I'll get your information. It's called a lens pen. It's a little lens cleaning pen. Super cool. It's got a little brush. It's got this little, people, we haven't started yet. We've got like, it's got this little like thing you can clean your lens on and stuff. It's pretty cool. So a little lens pen. Like I said, I hope your expectations weren't too high, but hey, you get something for joining here, not just knowledge. Okay, so starting now, the last comment we said, okay, after Sam says go. How about after Sam types go again? Type in starting now. You type in starting now, and after that, the first people who choose even or odd correctly get it. The first 5 people. So, Sam, after your comment, we will start. Yeah, Jonathan. Sorry, my Fuji's not for a prize. Okay, dude. Yeah, we got it yet. All right.
Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that's it.
All right, we got it. Okay, it was even. Okay, so we got K. Let's see. Let me write these down. K. Rudisill. Japneet. Jonathan, Lori, and John Flash. Okay, I want to make sure too, I hope that these can be, I don't know where everyone's from. I hope the company is willing to ship them internationally. But I'll reach out to you guys on Facebook, okay? Sam, I kind of want to just like show your screen and you can edit this last one. All right.
I've really enjoyed being able to go back and forth between seeing your screen and like your.
Okay. All right. This last one we're gonna rush through because I wanted to keep this to an hour. So let's get to this dog photo. And there's a couple things that I automatically knew when I did see this photo for the first time what I wanted to do. The issue I have with this photo is that. The issue that I'm going to try to solve is that the focus is on the nose and not on the eyes. And I feel like leaving it like this just doesn't feel like, it feels like something's off to me anyways. So what I'm actually going to do is make this like a super close photo on the nose just so that like the nose itself is like the subject of this photo rather than trying to make this a photo where the subject is the whole dog and then you like are like, why is it out of focus? So I'm just playing around here with like some crop ideas. Yeah, like even something like that might work. I might actually even just make this a square. Hey, I'm going to make this, edit this for Instagram or whatever. I don't know. I kind of liked it before. I'm just going to go full custom crop this in. I'm actually going to, right away, I never really do this. I'm going to make it even more pronounced, the blur, just so, again, people aren't like, why is that eye out of focus? I'm just going to make it even more blurry so people know that it's supposed to be blurry. So I'm taking my graduated filter. I'm creating like this sort of diagonal selection right here. And then I'm going to drop down my clarity and my sharpness. Not the texture, actually, just the sharpness. Sharpness all the way. and then clarity just a little bit. Okay, so let's see the before and after. Before, after. And I don't know. I don't know if this is the right thing to do. It's kind of like my first guess at doing this. I feel like the eyes are still a little distracting to me. Ugh, I don't know. Maybe I want to go take another picture of this dog. The nose is like way so far down in the bottom corner, so I don't really like that. I'm just going to quickly just play with the exposure. Sorry, this isn't like going to be an edit where you're learning a bunch because I'm like going super fast. I kind of like the contrast. Oh, actually, but for this photo, maybe bringing up the exposure of everything looks good. So I think I'm going to do that, but bring back down my highlight so it's not being blown out. And my whites. Interesting. I think I like that better because now we can see more of the nose. I don't know. I think this photo just bugs me because the eyes are out of focus. Sam, what are you doing with this photo?
It's funny that you brought up the nose because that's all I can really see now, and because it does look like the eyebrow is almost in focus, but the cropping thing, I'm just trying to figure out how to focus it in.
Yeah, it feels like it's being like, to me, it feels like it's just not. If I leave any of the eye in there, it looks like unbalanced, but then I don't know, this photo of just like a nose doesn't look that interesting to me either.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
trying to balance out the lighting as well so that it sort of reads across the whole nose, I guess.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm just gonna stick with that kind of crop. I don't know. Anyone have ideas for what I should do? The color I think is pretty good. I like how warm it is. Maybe boost it even more, make it a little warmer. Same with like the saturate. I don't think I'm gonna make the saturation warmer. Yeah, this is a hard one for me, and that happens. Maybe take my brush, just playing around. This is what happens when you edit photos. Play around. I'm going to go over his nose and try to bring up that exposure even more. My flow and density are down from the last time, so I'm just going to select that. Bring up the shadows. I'm just trying to make this nose the highlight of this image. Just like the best dog nose you've ever seen. Texture. So it's like a creative edit. Yeah. Sharpness. I don't know. Now I'm just making stuff up. I don't know. Before and after, like that. That's quick. I don't know. Maybe the contrast looks kind of cool. But I want to do something different than what I did with the last photo with that super contrasty image. Let's just play around with the overall contrast. Bring back a little bit of that overall contrast with a little S curve. Colleen says maybe black and white. As Hale says, choose another pick. That's what you should do. Yeah, that's for next time for sure.
Darken the forehead and eyes. That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. So that so like the focus is back on like the nose. I kind of liked like the more even exposure for the nose, but yeah, maybe something like that. Ugh, a little bit too much. I'm just going to drop the sharpness even more for that. We're just focusing in on this nose. I mean, the mustache here is pretty cool too. All right. I'm going to leave it at that. I mean, I did the best I could do. Hopefully other people have more creative or interesting approaches to this photo, and I would love to see them. But it is 9 o'clock here, and I've had a lot of fun. Sam, I hope you've had a lot of fun.
Yes, no.
And I hope everyone else there is listening had a lot of fun too. Let us know if you want to do more of these. I have a ton of photos that people have submitted, and if you want your photos to be edited or in the batch that we pick from, please submit them as well. There's a post at the top of if you go to the announcements for the Photo Friends group, there's a pinned post where it has all the information. You should just, if you're coming back to the group on Facebook, definitely go to the announcements. That's where we pin all the stuff that's most important. Sam and Will just did a live stream last week or Monday that's pinned up there where they critique student photos. And Sam is open to coaching. So Sam and Will have their coaching options open. So if you go to photographyandfriends.com, click on that coaching button, you can get a half hour or an hour of Sam's time where he will help you go over your portfolio, help answer gear questions, answer questions about starting a photo business. And we've had a lot of people go through those coaching hours, trainings, whatever you want to call them, and no complaints yet. It seems like everyone's been happy with it. So it does cost a little bit extra, but you're getting Sam's one-on-one time, which is so valuable.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Anything you want to say about that, Sam, or anything else before we sign off for the night?
No, just thanks everyone for being here. It's always a pleasure to sit down with you, Phil, and talk these types of things out. And I'm just constantly amazed by everyone's work on Photography and Friends, seeing what photos people are taking, and always happy to talk things out and give people advice on what gear to get or looking at photos and how to improve your photography skills. And happy to be here.
Yeah.
Excited to see everyone's edits.
Yeah, please do your own edits. I'll be exporting these 3 photos and posting them just in the comments of this thread. So I hope that other people can do that as well. And as always, just go to photographyandfriends.com. You can check out all of our other courses and everything like that. So if you have more questions, just post them to the group. We'll try to get back to you. And much love. Have a beautiful day. And we'll see you next time.
See you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.